Teresa is a former head of human resources at a London City law firm. She was a member of the firm's management team and has been involved in mergers and acquisitions, M&As, of smaller law firms. She was extensively involved in the onboarding and integration of the people from those merged firms, and she has extensive people management experience, working with people at every stage of their career. She's worked closely with those wishing to progress their careers. Teresa relocated to Ireland in November 2020 and took some time out. She spent some time thinking about what to do next and evaluating her own core skills of coaching, working with and managing people, and working with very different professional work environments. She has since started her business, Your Career Coach, and that was born in 2023. How does someone know that they're in a toxic work environment?
So how do they know? There's a really good definition of a toxic work environment. It's when the number of negative indicators begin to affect the well-being of the person involved. And the negative indicators, in my experience, are things like weak leadership, poor management, poor communication, aggressive communication, inappropriate communication, favoritism, bullying people, moving boundaries or having no boundaries, moving timelines, moving goalposts for no apparent reason. So they would be what I would call the negative indicators of what a toxic workplace is. And when you start to talk to somebody about those, you can see them nodding, oh yeah, that's part of my work, that's part of my work. And I suppose that's it in a nutshell. It's that negative indicator and the prevalence of it. And unfortunately, from what I can see from my work, toxic work environments are becoming, I don't know whether they're becoming more talked about or there's just more toxicity around. I really don't know about that.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Maybe the answer lies it is a bit of both, a very nuanced answer. Teresa, there was like so much to unpack there when you were talking about kind of the negative, how did you coin it, like the negative indicators? So I think one of the first ones you said was around like poor management or leadership. How do I know I have a bad manager?
How do you know you have a bad manager? If the communication is inconsistent, if you're given tasks and goals that change constantly, if you're not given clear direction in what you're supposed to be doing, if somebody thinks it's appropriate to ring you on a Saturday evening at 4:00 because they haven't done their part of the job, if somebody seeks to blame you for work that ultimately their responsibility, and the reason that the work hasn't been produced properly is because they failed to give you the clear communication on it and some clear direction. So that's a lot of information there, sorry.
It is a lot, but it's a lot of good information because I think it is one very clear indicator, and I think the manager has probably one of, if not the biggest says of someone having fulfillment in their career. So like if there's any managers out there as well, feel free to drop questions for Teresa, but you have such a big responsibility, whether you're in charge of one person or 100 people, to do right by that person too. So yeah, I think if you're making life unhappy for your employees, like it's a huge factor to them being just unhappy in the workplace in general. You mentioned kind of about the changing tasks and doing it frequently. I'm trying to think through different lenses, right? You might have a manager who's maybe like the CEO, like he's in charge, like he makes, like in a large sense, he kind of creates the direction or moves the company in a direction. But you might have a middle manager who's maybe receiving information from above that's contradicting, and now they're in like the weird juxtaposition. So now they're giving their employee, the people, their direct reports, conflicting because they're only going by what's been given to them, and there's so many kind of like different things at play, especially when it comes to that vision, because I do think that's very important, right? I think you need to know the direction. It's sports, it's business. Absolutely. You need to all be moving in a particular direction, or else you kind of lack a sense of organizational identity, and I think that organizational identity is key to knowing how you fit within the organization. So it was interesting you said about the kind of changing of tasks frequently, because I can see a middle manager being stuck in the middle of all that too.
Yeah, I suppose I would have a certain amount of sympathy for the middle manager, but a lot to do, it's all about communication. Again, we go back to communication. If he feels that he hasn't, or she feels that they haven't got the right information or the correct information or enough information, then they should be confident enough to actually say to the person that's above them, maybe the top manager, what's the purpose of this? How will this impact? I need a little bit more information before I go down to the team. I hear too many times of people being given tasks, having to work, to a ridiculous deadline to produce a particular paper on a project. because it's needed for a meeting on a Friday. They get told Tuesday, the meeting's Friday. They do everything in they can to get it delivered on time. They go for feedback after the meeting and the manager goes, oh yeah, well, we didn't get around to talking about it. That's bad management. That's appalling.
Yeah, I think one thing, if I'm thinking in like sporting career or just general career, one thing that I feel really exudes like a poor manager is, I think you mentioned feedback, when the feedback is too vague or not personalized enough to the person they're giving the feedback. Like, it's not helpful. Like, classic things you can think of sporting wise are like, keep doing what you're doing, or try harder, or maybe in a career it could be something like, you just have to communicate better. Something so vague like that. Like, that's not tangible. Like, an employee,
No,
or
it's
I
not.
can't do anything with
No,
that
no,
information. So I think
no, you can't.
it's so important to be specific. And I remember one of the best managers I had would create, like, they're called, like, you do them in the interview process, definitely, like your SOAR, your STAR format stories, but she would present them of me, like, to me, and it would really give me a good indication of what I done well in this instance, or that it might be one about, I did this well, but then I can add this element to improve this area even more. So I think being really specific with your feedback is vital.
Oh, it's crucial, because if you're specific with your feedback, the person goes away feeling my manager was interested enough in me to give me this feedback, and now I've actually got something to go with and that I can work on for my own progression to help me get to the next stage of of whatever I want to do. So yes, I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah, I would think the majority, depending on the career, obviously. I think some people, it's fair to acknowledge too. Like, I'm a person who values growth and development and constantly want to be building on the next thing. But I'd be remiss to say, like, there's people out there who have their jobs, they're their 9 to 5s, that's all they want to
Yeah,
do. Like, that's
absolutely.
perfectly
Absolutely.
fine too. So I think it's about finding what works
Absolutely.
best for the
Yeah.
person
Yeah,
you're trying to help.
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more.